Okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Today's guest. Today's guest is Fatih. He is no stranger to us. He's, I would say, if not my favorite Qari, then definitely in my top three. I remember the first time I heard him reciting Quran. That was on YouTube. This young teenager reciting Quran, no beard, very young looking. I think it was in Germany that you were during Ramadan that time. And I was thinking, subhanAllah, this is amazing. This guy can really recite well. And of course, I mean, being raised by my mother, who's a Quran teacher herself, very, very passionate about Quran. I was, of course, thinking, wow, I would love to have such a voice. And of course, meet you, Fatih. As destiny wanted it, Qadar, we met in Malaysia, not just once, but several times, went out for dinners, got a good friendship, and we kept in touch. And when we contacted Fatih and asked him whether he was willing to join us in this program and tell us his story, because I know a lot of us are very curious about how you can be memorize the entire Quran when you're 12 years old, and being able to recite the Quran the way you're doing, Fatih. So that's why we invited Fatih over to tell us his story and share some of his mesmerizing voice with us, so we can enjoy the music of Islam, or how I can put it. So the word is yours, Fatih. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, man, Jazakallah khair, man. Thank you for having me, man. And like you said, it's we did meet, quite a few years ago. It feels like forever ago now. But it was a pleasure, to come to Indonesia and Malaysia. Sorry, you're in Indonesia now, but we met in Malaysia. It was a pleasure to come there. Alhamdulillah, a lot of good memories from that time. Alhamdulillah for everything. For me, people often ask me about my story. And the first thing that I always like to mention when I begin speaking about my journey is I have to mention my mother. Just like yourself, my mother was really passionate about the Quran and the Deen. And from a very young age, she always wanted me to memorize the Quran. She wanted me to learn the Quran, and she didn't know where or how, but she was always trying to figure out a way. And I remember when we first moved to the United States, we moved from Germany. I was 4 years old, and we lived in a state called Arizona, where the Grand Canyon is, if you guys have heard of the Grand Canyon. So we lived there for a few years. And then my mom, she actually had her Quran teacher from Germany that used to teach her how to read Quran and stuff like that. She moved to the United States, and she lived in a state called Baltimore, Maryland. So when my mom found out that her Quran teacher had moved to the United States, the first thing she did was we moved to another state to follow the sister, so that my mom can continue to learn from her, and so that I can also begin my studies as well. When I first moved to Maryland, I started off by being in a Islamic school, full-time Islamic school. I think I was in like first grade when I started the Islamic school. And alhamdulillah, it was good. That's another place where I was learning Quran, but not so intensely. Ever since I was young, ever since I can remember, my mom always made it a point to make sure that I'm in Islamic school. So even before first grade, preschool, kindergarten, whatever it was, my mom always made sure that I was in Islamic school. And that really helped me a lot. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because it's really, really important for the parents to understand that the pronunciation, especially of a language like Arabic, right? It starts from a very, very young age. And the sooner that you start with your children, the better for them, because once they get older, it becomes more difficult to get that clean, that proper pronunciation. So alhamdulillah, my mom, she started me from a very young age. I recommend usually that parents start with their children. As soon as your kids are able to talk, as soon as they're communicating, you get them for repeating after you the alphabets and letters, and you try to get them to learn. The official age that they start, like learning with teachers or stuff like that, I would say is about 5 years old. Sometimes, we make exceptions for 4 years old. But your kid can start much sooner than that. As soon as they're talking, after they say mommy and daddy, the next word should be alif ba ta, ideally, right? After Allah, actually, right? So, we want to start them at a very, very young age. And I think that's, one of the most important things that will help you. So alhamdulillah, my mom did that for me. And I was in Islamic school up until third grade. When I was in third grade, in the Islamic school that I was studying at, it's a big building. In the United States, alhamdulillah, we have masajid that are big facilities. It's not just a school. It can be a mosque, a school, a gymnasium, a cafeteria, whatever you can think of, alhamdulillah, they put it in one place. It's very nice. So I was studying, normally in the third grade, and upstairs in the mosque, in the masjid portion of this building, is where we had the Hifz program, the program for memorizing the Quran. So it was actually my teacher. It was my teacher that suggested it to my mom. My teacher, my mom told me that my teacher told her at that time that she noticed that, she was like, Fatih is doing really good in school. And I think that, he would do really well in the Hifz Quran program. I think he would do really well memorizing the Quran. And I feel like, his mind is being wasted here in third grade. So you should put him in the Hifz program and get him to memorize the Quran as soon as possible. So, as soon as I finished the third grade, my mom, she pulled me out of school and she put me into the Hifz program to start memorizing the Quran. Now, I was about 9 years old when all of this was going on. And, I always say this, at 9 years old and even older, man, forget 9 years old, but, especially at 9 years old, you don't want to be reading Quran. You don't want to be memorizing the Quran. When you're that young, you don't understand the benefit and the importance of the Quran, and not just the Quran, but religion and God, all together. So my mom, what she told me was, she said, I want you to go and try the Hifz program, go sit in the masjid, try it for a day. If you like it, tafaddal, sit down, continue, and you can do it as long as you want. But if you don't like it, it's okay. You don't have to go. You can stay at home. You can go back to school when school starts. So I said, okay, that's fine. I went. I didn't enjoy it. The school that I went to for memorizing the Quran was from 7 in the morning to 7 in the evening. It was really long. It was all day Quran, 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 Quran. And after that, just one day, I said, I don't want to do this. And I don't think any, it's really difficult to find a kid that would want to sit in the masjid and do anything all day, for that long. But, I told my mom I didn't want to do it. And she said, okay. And I went to sleep. And next thing you know, the next morning, I'm being woken up again. And my mom is forcing me to go. And I'm arguing and I'm fighting it. I don't want to do this. And then my mom was like, if you don't go, I'm going to call your uncle. And my uncle was who disciplined me when I was young. So as soon as she said that, I was out of the bed and I was ready to go, and I didn't enjoy it in the beginning. And it was really, hard at the start, spending that much time in the mosque, just reading Quran, not doing anything else, and it took me some time to get used to it. But, subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He really does make memorizing the Quran easy. I spent, 5 days a week, maybe 14, 15 hours a day. And alhamdulillah, it took me about 3 years. You can finish it sooner, but my teacher, he didn't really push us to memorize it quickly. He was always about, take your time with it. Even if you can memorize 5 pages, just memorize 1, maybe 2, because the faster you memorize something, the quicker you learn it, the quicker you'll forget it. So the more time you spend with something, naturally the longer it's gonna stay with you. So, and I'm really, really thankful that my teacher, he was able to do that with me, because, as I got older, when I finished memorizing the Quran and when I left the program, it's really hard to get a kid to read Quran at home, even when they're memorizing the Quran. Like when I was in the process of memorizing the Quran, and I was with my teacher and I was going to the mosque every day, obviously I still had to go home and I had to practice at home and read at home. And even again, at that golden time, which is what I would consider the golden time for me, I was barely reading at home because I was just doing so much at the mosque. And when I got home, I didn't want to. But when you leave the Quran program, when any child leaves the Quran program and, they start growing up, I was, almost 15 when I finally left, because I stayed for 2 more years after I finished. When I finally did leave, when I was 15, 16, when I was growing up, I didn't really read much. It was really difficult for me to read anything at all. And I was still finding my way. I was still figuring myself out. It wasn't just the Quran. It was just, God, religion, everything, all together. In that point of your life, it's kind of something that we struggle with. So, the Quran was like reviewing and, trying to keep it. It was like the last thing on my mind at that time. There was so much other stuff going on. And it was thanks to my teacher and, the effort that he put in and the time that I spent when I was younger, which allowed me not to completely forget the Quran, right? So it did get weaker, but it didn't completely disappear. And for the most part, it's still there, alhamdulillah, and strong because of the base and the foundation that my teacher laid for me when I was younger. So, that's one of the most important things when it comes to memorizing the Quran. When you have your kids doing it, when someone is doing it younger, you have to plan ahead. You have to anticipate that, they might not read the Quran for the next 10 years, 20 years, who knows, ideally not that long. But, from what I've seen normally on average, if they start pretty young, it takes until, it takes a level of maturity and connection with God and your faith. Because, when you're younger, the motivation for you is your parents and discipline. When you're 20 years old, you are your own motivation. Your parents are not going to chase you around the house and make you pray. You don't do things because someone is watching you. You do things, or you don't do things because you understand God is watching you, right? Because you have that relationship with God and you want to make him happy, or you fear him. So it took for me to get to that stage in my life to like where I'm at now. I would like to, hope I'm there, is where, I take it more seriously, because now it's not something I have to do. Now it's the most beloved thing to me, actually. And I'm thankful to my teachers, that really, really put in that time with me when I was younger, because now when I'm finally coming back to it, I don't have to start all over from scratch. I didn't forget everything. I am picking up the pieces quite easily, alhamdulillah, and it's all still pretty much there, alhamdulillah. So I'm really, really thankful for them for that. So, when I started the program in the beginning, it was difficult. I was 9 years old. My parents forced me. My teachers, they forced me. Sometimes they had to do their job, which is teach, but also, motivate, because a teacher's job is, you're going to find students that lose motivation very easily. And quickly maybe. So, the teacher has to sit there and not just teach you, but, keep you motivated and, help you get through all that difficulty. So alhamdulillah, my teachers did that for me. And, because of that, I always tell people and I recommend, I know there's some parents that are like, I'm going to let my kids get older and then choose for themselves if they want to do it, or, if they don't, if they want to do it or not. But I'm really against that, because, like my teacher used to tell us, it's like medicine. Little kids, when they're younger, they don't, if you've ever tried to make a kid take some medicine and they don't want to take it, they're fighting you, it tastes disgusting, they don't want it, but they're sick, they need it, but, they don't want it. It doesn't matter, you can't explain to them, like, you're sick, you need this. They don't understand. So sort of like that, the Quran is actually the best medicine for your soul, for your mind, for everything, man. And it's going to be there to help you and protect you for the rest of your life. So even if you make your kid memorize the Quran and they don't want to do it, they don't understand, because it's in their hearts and because it's in their soul, I'm telling you, through their life when they grow up, it is going to protect them. It is going to help them, and it's going to help them stay close and get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just by having it in their hearts. It doesn't matter how much they read it or how much they review it. I felt like, even through my difficult years, just having the Quran in my heart really is something that kept me grounded, and it kept me close to my religion and to God. And it really helped me get through some of the most difficult times. And this is even when I wasn't, reviewing, or when I wasn't, maintaining my relationship with the Quran like I should have been. It just was there. It was just present in my soul and my heart. And I believe that it really, really helped me. So I always tell parents, if you have young kids, put them in the Quran programs, find them teachers, make them memorize the Quran, give them the keys. You're giving them the keys to the entire world and universe. This is the key to success right here. And, they might grow up and maybe they don't use this key that you've given them, but at least you've given them the tools to success, and they do have the ability, they do have the chance to do something with it if they decide to. But at least, when they get older, you can look back and say, you know what, I did my part. And, one of the hardest things as well is when you get older and, you want to do it when you're older, not to say you can't do it, you can do it when you're older for sure. And, people oftentimes like to think that, when you're older, you can't do it because, maybe your memory is weaker or the best time to do it is when you're young. But, from what I've seen, usually the reason why someone can't do it when they're older is not because, their memory is not good or something. It's because of the time, the commitments that they have. They have responsibilities elsewhere. You don't have that same time that you do when you're younger to memorize the Quran, right? So you can always memorize it, but a lot of people, they have regrets that they didn't do it when they were younger, or parents have regrets that they didn't have have their children start when they were younger, and you want to avoid all of that. It's better to just give them those tools, give them the ability, and inshallah, when they're older, they can take advantage of them. Hopefully, they will take advantage of them. Most of the time, they do, and inshallah, that's what's going to happen. With you guys and with your children as well. Bi'idhnillah. So back to my journey, I started when I was 9 and I finished when I was 13. And my teacher had a policy where you had to stay for 1 extra year just to review, just to solidify what you learned, because he didn't want us to forget. And alhamdulillah, I stayed for an extra 2 years. So he made me stay an extra year. I remember when I was young, after I did my extra year, I was so happy. I was ready to go back to school. I was finished with this whole Quran thing. And my teacher comes to my house and he's like, Fatih, I want you to stay for 1 more year. And I was devastated. I was like, oh, I've been here for 4 years already. Like, subhanAllah. But now, looking back, I'm so grateful to my teachers, man, because everything I am today, is because of my parents and my teachers. And I'm really, really grateful. SubhanAllah, my teachers because I actually used to live close to my teachers. We were neighbors. My teacher did this with not just me, with quite a few of the students, but he did it with me a lot because, it was easier for him because I was obviously, closer to him. But what he would do is if you didn't do well in class, if, you didn't know your lesson, if you were struggling a bit, he would, on top of the 7 to 7, so we were there from 7 in the morning to 7 in the evening, on top of being there for all those hours, when class would finish at 7 o'clock at night, he would make us go to his house and we would sit in his living room and we would sit on the floor and face the wall and we would read until 9, 10. If that wasn't working and we were still not doing well, there were times where I had to actually sleep at my teacher's house. And he would tell me, you're going to sleep here and you're not going home until everything is perfect. Like, you're not going home until you fix everything, subhanAllah. And it was that, dedication from my teacher and, the work that he put in, which, greatly influenced who I am today and, helped me get to where I am. And I feel really lucky, man. I feel like, I visited a lot of Quran schools and I've met a lot of Quran teachers. And looking back now, I really feel like everything happens for a reason. And I feel like I was truly blessed and gifted with the best Quran teachers, where I was living in the time. Like, I don't think I could have gotten better than I got, man, because subhanAllah, the amount of dedication and effort these guys put, like, I just don't see how anyone can put more than that. Like, they sacrifice all their time for their students. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reward them and bless them truly, because, and they're still doing it today, man. They're still doing it today. 10 years later, they're, subhanAllah, they're still teaching, and their parents were teaching, all of their family members memorize the Quran, their parents, sisters, brothers, everyone teaches Quran. The wife, his wife used to teach the girls at the house, So, subhanAllah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them, man. So my teachers, they really did a lot for me. And, I memorized the Quran. I think I was about 14 or 15 when I finished. And you know, I didn't really become known for Quran until maybe like a year or two after that. I started leading Taraweeh. So the first Taraweeh I did, you know, okay, you know, it was, you know, pretty good sized masjid, but you know, only the local community knew about me at that time, and I was still developing. I wasn't that great. Then the Taraweeh that Munir was talking about, actually, it did not happen in Germany. It happened in the United States. And that was I think I was about 16 when I did that Taraweeh. And I, you know, at that time, I didn't really think anything of it. I just, you know, I didn't really think I was, you know, that great. And I wasn't that great at that time. But I just took a video camera and I would set it up in front of myself before I would, you know, lead. And, you know, I don't remember exactly what motivated me to do that, or to be honest, but I just, you know, I was like, let me just record this and put it on YouTube. And because at that time, no one else was doing that. It's not like, you know, I saw someone doing it and, you know, I'm just thinking about it right now. I don't remember the exact reason, but, you know, something pushed me to do it. Alhamdulillah, I did. So I took that video. I uploaded my Taraweeh videos from that year onto YouTube. And, you know, for a year after that, maybe the videos got like 10 views, 15 views. No one really, you know, was paying attention to them. But then I think what happened was overnight, somebody found one of my videos and they took it and they re-uploaded it to YouTube with an Arabic title. And they wrote in Arabic, what is it? American guy or something reciting Quran beautifully. And they wrote that in Arabic. And I think that video went viral in the Middle East. Because I remember waking up in one morning and I had Twitter, I had Facebook, but I never used, like, especially Twitter. I had an account, I never used it ever. And I remember opening my email and I have like 10,000 unread emails. And I'm like, I don't even use my email. Why do I have so many emails? And, you know, I'm going through them and it's all like, this person has followed you. This person has followed you. Or, you know, this person's messaged you. And I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. And then, you know, I see that this video that this brother uploaded, it got like 1 million views in, I think, a day or two. And people started finding out about me through this video. They started finding my name. They started adding me on Facebook. People started like just searching for me everywhere. They started just adding me everywhere. And it became overwhelming. I remember Facebook has only like a 5,000 friend limit. And that got maxed out pretty quickly. So that's when I made the Facebook page that I have now. And I had to make it, you know, I was like, okay, you know, people are finding me. So, you know, let me make a page. And once I made that page and I saw that people were actually enjoying my recitation, I was like, okay, wow, people really want to hear more. So slowly, you know, I started recording. I made an Instagram account, I made a Twitter account, and I made a YouTube channel. The first YouTube channel I made, I forgot the password and the username. It's still there. I have some videos on there, but then I had to make another one. And alhamdulillah, slowly, you know, everything started falling into place from there. You know, God has a plan for me, you know, always has, always will. And I'm just, you know, blessed to be part of this plan of His. And I'm just, you know, really honored and blessed to be someone who can spread, you know, Islam, peace and happiness and joy to people through the Quran. And I'm just, you know, as I'm getting older, I'm just, you know, working harder and harder to, you know, because this is a responsibility. So I'm just, you know, trying my best to take this responsibility and do the best that I can with it. And alhamdulillah, you know, as I became a little bit more known, people started reaching out to me from different countries, different organizations. That's, you know, how I met you guys, how I first came to Malaysia. But alhamdulillah, you guys were one of the first few people actually that reached out to me. And Malaysia was one of the first few countries that I actually visited. And it was good times, man, alhamdulillah. But it was a big blessing. It was a big honor for me as well. You know, I was still young, you know, and figuring myself out, but I was blessed with an opportunity to go travel the world. You know, I went to a few different countries. I got to meet a lot of different people, alhamdulillah. And, you know, that also kind of helped me appreciate and love what I'm doing more, because, you know, when you go and travel and you see the impact that Quran has on people, when you see the impact that Quran has on people, it's really hard to, like, you know, deny the beauty and the power of it. And, you know, because, you know, when you're younger and you're, you know, just like most of us, and you're struggling with your faith, and you're questioning everything, and you're at that stage in your life. But then you go and you see the impact that Quran not only has on other people but yourself. That was one of the biggest things that helped me with my relationship with God and finding my way. So that traveling really, it opened up my eyes. It opened up my eyes, it opened up my mind, and it made me a really understanding, open-minded person. And it influenced who I am today greatly. And I'm really, really thankful for every single opportunity that I've had. And I'm really, really happy that I'm able to share this Quran with everybody, and make my teachers proud. Every single thing that I do, my teachers are getting the benefit. Their parents are getting the benefit. My parents are getting the benefit, and every single person who has guided me and helped me along this path, inshallah, every little thing that I do, all the effort that I put in, hopefully, inshallah, they benefit from it too. And we all enter Jannah, inshallah, jami'an together, bi'idhnillah. So I feel like I'm reaching towards the end of my story now. As you guys know, after that, things developed the way they did. Now I'm known for reciting Quran, but I'm not finished yet. I'm still starting my journey, because I memorized the Quran, but that's just the beginning. So currently I'm living in Kuwait. I'm studying Arabic. I'm really, really happy to be learning Arabic, because it's the most important thing for me in my life right now to understand this book. It's so amazing, and when I read it, when I do understand something now, especially since I started studying, and when I'm understanding even the little bit that I'm understanding, it just has such an effect on me. It's so powerful, and I can't wait. I really can't wait for the day where I can just recite and I know everything that I'm reading, and not just that, but like the explanation and like just the context and everything. I'm like, I can't wait for that day, inshallah. But I'm starting with my Arabic. I'm in my first year of Arabic studies. Then I plan on going and studying possibly in Medina or Mecca. I want to become a scholar. I really want to take this to the next level. And then, I plan on spending the rest of my life, changing the world and just helping as many people as I can through this book, through this Quran, and through this religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's where I'm at now. I'm recording as much as I can. I'm actually recording the whole Quran right now for the first time. I'm taking advantage of this Corona situation. I'm stuck at home, and this is the first time, guys, since I finished memorizing the Quran, since I was a kid, that I'm at home for Ramadan like this, and that I'm not doing Taraweeh. And it's a bit weird for me that I'm not doing it, but I found it to be a huge blessing. I'm spending time with my family. I'm taking advantage of this time, and it's actually motivated me to record the Quran for the first time. I'm 25 years old, and it took me a long time to get here. It was really difficult for me to get this going. I was really hard on myself. I always wanted the first recording that I do to be, amazing. I was like, I can't make mistakes. It has to be flawless. But, those expectations are a bit too high. So now I'm just doing my absolute best, and, hopefully it's good enough. And, I'll do it again and again and again until it gets better, inshallah. So that's my current plan. And so I'm recording, alhamdulillah, as of today. I think I finished, I'm finishing the 7th juz tonight. Which is great for me. I can't wait to get to the 15 juz mark, which is half the Quran, because once I finish the first half, then, finishing the whole thing becomes just that much more real to me. And inshallah, I think it's going to be possible. So, whoever, has been asking for my recitations, I know a lot of people have been wanting to listen to my sort of Baqarah or Ali Imran or, all these long surahs, but alhamdulillah, I've recorded them now. I'm going to be uploading them to YouTube. The Quran Pro app, for everyone who's not able to do Taraweeh. I'm going live every single night on Facebook. You can follow, along with me. We're reciting one juz a night. And inshallah, we plan on finishing the whole Quran by the end of Ramadan. So, that's currently what I'm doing. Alhamdulillah, just really happy to be able to do all of this. And, with that, I would just like to end on the note of, I know a lot of us are probably struggling because of the Corona. A lot of us are stuck at home, but a lot of good is coming out of this. Some people are struggling, and I understand that. But a lot of a lot of good. I already see a lot of good coming out of this. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He does everything for a reason. And there's a lot of blessings and a lot of khair that's coming out of this. And inshallah, I think when a lot of us look back in a few years, we're going to see the benefits of all of this and how it brought us together and how it brought out, the best in some of us. And, inshallah, a lot of the things that are coming out of this right now, like for example, these Zoom sessions that we're having, or all these online sessions, and all of the things that people are coming up with right now, hopefully they're going to continue even after all of this, and we're going to develop it even more, and it's going to turn into something great, inshallah. So I just want to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for protecting me in this difficult time. I might not be struggling as much as somebody else, and I'm really thankful for that. And I also want to remind anybody else that's watching this, if you're not struggling, if you're at home, you're not worried about food, you're not worried about a roof over your head, you have all the basic things, you have your family with you, you're not sick, man, you need to be grateful. This is the time to be grateful and thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we're in the month of Ramadan now. And so if you really want to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like if you want to show Him that you're thankful that He's taking care of you and that He's protecting you from some of the difficulties that a lot of people in the world are going through right now, do your best to worship Him, do more for Him, learn more about Him, read the Quran, study your religion, show Him that you're thankful, show Him that you're happy that He's been taking care of you. And if you're in a situation right now where Allah has taken care of you and you're in a good place, take care of other people. Like, this is the time to go out of your way, look for the person that needs help, donate to all of these causes online, every single one that you come across if you can. Help the people in your life around you. Look at the people who are suffering and go out of your way. For the people who are working, who are delivering your groceries, who are delivering your food, make sure you go out of your way to tip them 5 times as much as you might normally, because these people are struggling. There's a lot of people who are risking their lives to make your life easier at the end of the day. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you in this time, you need to be giving to everybody else and trying to make this calamity or this disaster as easy as possible on some people in their lives, because some people really have it hard. So Jazakumullah khairan for having me, Munir. I'm going to end there, and I think we're going to do a Quran recitation now, right?
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, please. I'm sure a lot of the listeners would love to listen to, just a couple of different qira'at. If you could do that for us for just 5-10 minutes, and then we'll do a Q&A afterwards. So we have our Facebook Live. If you're online there, please feel free to ask your questions in the comments field. If you're on Zoom, please feel free to use the Q&A function, and we will ask Brother Fatih the questions directly.
Inshallah.
Back to you, Fatih.
Barakallah fik. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذا سمعوا ما أنزل إلى الرسول ترى أعينهم تفيض من الدمع مما عرفوا من الحق يقولون ربنا آمنا فاكتبنا مع الشاهدين. وما لنا لا نؤمن بالله وما جاءنا من الحق ونطمع أن يدخلنا ربنا مع القوم الصالحين. فأثابهم الله بما قالوا جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها وذلك جزاء المحسنين. والذين كفروا وكذبوا بآياتنا أولئك أصحاب الجحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تحرموا طيبات ما أحل الله لكم ولا تعتدوا إن الله لا يحب المعتدين. وكلوا مما رزقكم الله حلالا طيبا واتقوا الله الذي أنتم به مؤمنون. لا يؤاخذكم الله باللغو في أيمانكم ولكن يؤاخذكم بما عقدتم الأيمان فكفارته إطعام 10 مساكين من أوسط ما تطعمون أهليكم أو كسوتهم أو تحرير رقبة فمن لم يجد فصيام 3 أيام ذلك كفارة أيمانكم إذا حلفتم واحفظوا أيمانكم كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تشكرون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إنما الخمر والميسر والأنصاب والأزلام رجس من عمل الشيطان فاجتنبوه لعلكم تفلحون. إنما يريد الشيطان أن يوقع بينكم العداوة والبغضاء في الخمر والميسر ويصدكم عن ذكر الله وعن الصلاة فهل أنتم منتهون؟ وأطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول واحذروا فإن توليتم فاعلموا أنما على رسولنا البلاغ المبين. ليس على الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات جناح فيما طعموا إذا ما اتقوا وآمنوا وعملوا الصالحات ثم اتقوا وآمنوا ثم اتقوا وأحسنوا والله يحب المحسنين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا ليبلونكم الله بشيء من الصيد تنالوا أيديكم ورماحكم ليعلم الله من يخافه بالغيب فمن اعتدى بعد ذلك فله عذاب أليم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقتلوا الصيد وأنتم حرم ومن قتله منكم متعمدا فجزاء مثل ما قتل من النعم يحكم به ذوى عدل منكم هديا بالغ الكعبة أو كفارة طعام مساكين أو عدل ذلك صياما ليذوق وبال أمره عفى الله عما سلف ومن عاد فينتقم الله منه والله عزيز ذو انتقام. أحل لكم صيد البحر وطعامه متاعا لكم وللسيارة وحرم عليكم صيد البر ما دمتم حرما واتقوا الله الذي إليه تحشرون. جعل الله الكعبة البيت الحرام قياما للناس والشهر الحرام والهدي والقلائد ذلك لتعلموا أن الله يعلم ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وأن الله بكل شيء عليم. اعلموا أن الله شديد العقاب وأن الله غفور رحيم. ما على الرسول إلا البلاغ والله يعلم ما تبدون وما تكتمون. قل لا يستوي الخبيث والطيب ولو أعجبك كثرة الخبيث فاتقوا الله يا أولي الألباب لعلكم تفلحون. صدق الله العظيم. بارك الله فيك. So I just want to apologize as well. As I said, I'm recording the whole Quran right now. I was recording for almost 3 hours before this session. So my voice is quite tired. It was quite difficult for me to read there. But it's okay, alhamdulillah, it's not a problem. I should have probably read at the beginning instead of speaking for so long and then reading. But Jazakallah khair guys for having me. Brother Munir, are you there?
Yes. Perfect.
I think we can go into the Q&A right now.
Yes. So Fatih, barakallahu feek for this session. I mean, it's extremely inspiring. And once again, I mean, I love the emphasis you had on your mother. The impact women have had on the Islamic history is something we just can't downplay. I mean, the first Shaheed was a woman. The first university in the world was built by a woman in Fas. And even into the modern days, I mean, your mother is the one who really supported you and brought you up to bring you where you are here. So please, everyone, I mean, we cannot respect our women folk enough, and especially our mothers. There's a good reason to why Islam is emphasizing so much on loving our women, especially our mothers, and showing so much respect to women as we are taught by Islam. Yes, so questions. There are quite a number of questions. The first one is, so Hifz is usually something that parents desire more so than children themselves. So what are some of the techniques that you would recommend parents and teachers today from your experience? Because what we keep hearing is that, you know, that the modern form of learning, it has to be fun and so forth. But you seem to have had the Mr. Miyagi type of training, Mr. Miyagi from Karate Kid, where it was a little bit more tough, but it seems to have worked on you. So what is the advice you can share with us?
So my advice is, honestly, I've been teaching for a long time as well. I forgot to mention in my talk that you know, I'm a teacher as well. Alhamdulillah, I've been teaching Quran ever since I graduated. My teacher actually, he trained me how to teach while I was memorizing the Quran. So ever since I've left the Quran program, I've also been teaching myself. And you know, I used to be very tough like my teachers. I'm still very tough, but not like my teachers. And I remember one time a student's parent came to me and he told me, you know, anyone can teach with toughness and discipline, but the truly special teachers are the ones that can teach with love and using, you know, love as a motivation. So what does that mean? It means that discipline and toughness will get the job done most of the time. It's quicker, it's more efficient, I think. But if you're able to teach a kid, or if a kid's able to learn through love and respect, that's just more, the quality of that learning is just a lot better. And it's gonna, you know, always, they're gonna appreciate it more and they're gonna love it more, and it's gonna last with them for a longer time. But from my experience when it comes to younger kids, right, it's really difficult to teach younger kids through like love and stuff like that. It does work with some kids. Girls, for example, are also different than boys. Girls are more respectful usually, and you know, you can't treat them like boys. You know, boys, especially young boys, they need that toughness and discipline. when we were memorizing the Quran, I want you to think about this. If any of you guys have children who are boys, young boys, my teacher had to teach, and he was pretty much with us 15 hours a day. 50 or 60 boys from ages like 5 to 20. All right. So you have the young ones, the teens, the preteens, you have all of the problems that come with all those age ranges and all those kids, you know? So my teacher, you know, sometimes we would see him often actually just popping Advil, like, you know, like Dr. House. I don't know if you've ever seen that show, like, because the amount of, like, he would just be sitting there like this sometimes, you know? He's just like, because if a teacher cares about you and wants you to do good, when you do bad or when the kids don't listen, like, it really hurts. Like, it upsets the teacher. Like, you know, you want the best and you're trying your best. So it's really difficult to teach Quran for, like, you know, especially when it comes to younger kids, for like a long period of time. So I would say to parents, I don't know how you raise your kids or how you treat them at home, you know, try to teach them with love, try to be nice about it, try to do, you know, doing everything you can to make it enjoyable for them. But also keep in mind that there are going to be times where, just like with anything, you know, when it comes to raising children, there are times that I believe like a bit of toughness is needed, and, you know, you use your best judgment for that. And you know your kids best, right? And just try to find a teacher that also understands that best, and try to stay away. You know, there are unfortunately teachers who don't love teaching. There's people who just do it for the money. There are people who they don't even like kids, and you're going to come across those kind of people, right? So you're going to find teachers who abuse children in all kinds of ways. You're going to find teachers that don't care, meaning, you know, your kid is memorizing the Quran with somebody, and they're not doing anything bad, but they're not doing anything good. They're not doing anything at all, actually. They're just like letting your kid just move along, and, you know, like they don't really care for the best of the child. They're not really pushing for excellence. They're just, you know, they're just doing it to get the money and move on. Like, it's just a job. So, you know, you have to find the right teacher, the right program, the right institution. It's difficult, I know, but it's worth the search. It's worth the hardship to get there when you find it.
So another question is a little bit about our situation right now with COVID-19. We can't go out. We have to do everything online. So with the modern technology we are having today, are there any methodologies that you would recommend that you could recommend to teach our children today? So, for example, online learning, it's very hard to be tough to your child. So what are some of the techniques you can recommend from your experience?
So, to be honest, with online learning, what I do is, you know, alhamdulillah, most of my kids, they don't have a problem. Most of my kids, they behave. And, like, obviously, if they're young, sometimes they have an attention problem, but that's different. An attention problem is different to, like, not doing any homework, or like not, like, that's different. Like, so if they're having a problem with paying attention, that's okay. That's normal for their age. I don't have problems with that. When it comes to, like, if they're blatantly being disrespectful, which alhamdulillah, I've never had any student that, like, disrespected me or, like, told me, like, no, or didn't want to listen. But if it comes down to that, as an online teacher, I just leave that to the parents. And I explain to the parents, like, this is your responsibility and your job. And, you know, it's whatever you guys want to do with it. Another thing is, like, if you want to, the reason why it's so important to have a teacher when memorizing the Quran, I get that a lot of parents want to teach their kids, and they should, absolutely. But the first thing is, you know, you want to work on your own pronunciation as much as possible. Because if your own pronunciation isn't that good and you're teaching your kids, then you're teaching them incorrectly. So it's better to have them learn with somebody that knows what they're doing and that knows how to pronounce things, and they can come and practice with you and they can read with you. But, you know, you want them to learn it properly, because they only get, like, really one opportunity for that. Once they get older, it becomes a lot harder. So, you know, make sure that they have the right teachers for pronunciation. And if you want them to memorize, the most important thing when it comes to memorizing is consistency, always doing a little bit every day. So if you want your kid to memorize Juz Amma, for example, the 30th Juz, lead by example, memorize it with them, right? So you do the first surah, and it's easier for you to recite it to, like, a friend or a sheikh that you know, they can correct you, and then you can take that time and correct your kids, and you can be their role model, their example, and you can really lead the way. And inshallah, you know, through your example, they're going to do well as well, and you guys can do it together. And I think that's one of the best ways to bond with your children as well.
So we have two questions on Facebook that I'll put together. What is your favorite surah or ayat to recite and the reason why? And the second question is, which part of the Quran was the most challenging for you to memorize?
My favorite surah is probably Surah Yusuf, because it's the first surah that I ever learned the meaning of when I was younger. Before I even memorized the Quran, I had a teacher. Before school, we would go over a few pages, we'd read them together, and she would explain to us the tafsir, the meaning, and it was a beautiful story, and it always stuck with me from a young age. As far as which surah do I love reciting, because there's a difference between which is my favorite surah and which one do I love to recite. I love to recite obviously the popular surahs like Waqi'ah, Rahman, one of my favorites, Qaf, Mulk, all of these surahs, alhamdulillah. As far as what was the most difficult, to be honest, I don't remember one part being so difficult. It was more of, if anything, I'd say in the beginning is as hard as it's going to be, and it only just gets easier from there. So like, the 30th juz, even though it's the easiest juz now, it was the first juz that I did, and it took the most time. It took me maybe like 3 months or something to do that juz, because I was just memorizing the Quran. I was memorizing little portions a day. But then when I got to Surah Baqarah, because I've already memorized 27 juz, when I got to Baqarah, it was actually the easiest surah for me to memorize in the Quran. It was like this, right? So all I can say for that is that it starts off difficult, and the first day, the first lesson is going to be the hardest, and usually from there, it just gets easier and easier.
Okay, barakallahu feek. We are getting a lot of questions. I'm very sorry that I can't take all of them. We are running out of time, but there's one more question that I would like to cover here. One of the question is, Bosnia is not famous for being the most conservative country when it comes to Islam. It's more like European countries than some of the more conservative Islamic countries. What was different in your family structure that led you to become a Hafidz and such a practicing Muslim, alhamdulillah?
Well, to be honest, Bosnia now, it was impacted heavily by the war. Since the war, a lot of people have come back to Islam. Islam is very, very strong now in Bosnia. Obviously, because the thing about Bosnia, if you go visit, it's 50% or 49% Muslim. You still have a lot of Christians and stuff there as well. And even the Muslims, a lot of them grew up culturally Muslim. They didn't really know. It was just not much knowledge there. It wasn't, like when my mom was growing up, when my mom lived in Bosnia, she didn't know anything about Islam. Even though she was Muslim, she didn't know anything about Islam. Her grandma used to tell her, like, hijab was something that only old ladies wear. She's like, when you get older, you'll wear this. Or like, prayer is something that only old people do. Like, my mom didn't know how to pray. She didn't know how to read Arabic, nothing, It wasn't until she moved to Germany, where she met like practicing Muslim sisters. That's when she like learned about her religion, started wearing hijab, going to halaqas, learning how to read Quran. And that's when she got really passionate about her religion. She was always passionate about her religion, even when she was a kid. My mom was one of those like perfect children. Like, she never did anything wrong, even before Islam, like before she started practicing. She never dated boys, she never did anything bad. Like, she was always like a straight arrow. And then when she, finally started actually learning about her religion, it just made her even more, So, alhamdulillah, I had, my mom was just special, I'd like to say, because, she was always a, special person, even before she knew much about her religion. But alhamdulillah, now if you go to Bosnia, there's so many Qir'at, there's so many people who memorize the Quran, there's so many graduates from all like, the Azhar, Medina that are going back, and they're making movements, man. And there's people that are really, really, coming back to the religion now. And it's going to take time, man, alhamdulillah, but it'll get there, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. Fatih, thank you so much for joining us today. We will have this on Facebook. So we have a Facebook Live, so people can revisit our Facebook page to watch it. It's Muslim Circle O. We will also upload this video on YouTube. And guys, it's okay to be a stalker in Ramadan. Go into Fatih's Facebook page, listen to some of his recitation. It's definitely worth it. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining today, and a special thanks to Fatih. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for having me, man.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.